Greetings to you, regardless of what day or time it is. Good morning, good evening. Welcome. Welcome to Inner Light Ministries. I'm Reverend Deborah Johnson, also known of as Rev D. Whew, let's just take a breath, huh? How good it is, how good it is to be alive. And I want to just straight off the bat say, Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. And to celebrate all of you who are mothers by however means you got there. Some of you are biological, some of you are raising kids, some of you are not female, but you are still in that nurturing role. So kudos, thank you, because, we hear that phrase sometimes, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. Literally, literally. If it weren't for you, we would not be here. And I just want to say thank you to that, straight up front. At Inner Light, we are about transformation. We are about healing. We're about activating the omni faith energy of love. We are about universal spiritual principles, those things that transcend time and history and culture and tradition, things that transcend religion. The truth is just the truth is the truth. It can't be bottled up, it can't be patented. We come here to celebrate that, to remember who it is that we are, and to put these truths, to put these practices into our everyday activities. There aren't different principles for different things. There's not a different gravity for a tennis ball than a rocket ship. We have a tendency to want to compartmentalize where, oh, well, I can understand how this could work for some kind of health issue, but this is the mortgage. Maybe I can see how this could work in couples counseling, but this is politics. Big, small, universe doesn't care about all of that. The same thing works everywhere. Okay. So anything that we're talking about today, I want to encourage you, try it on for size. Think, well, what does this mean for my personal life? What does this mean for my professional life? What does this mean for our political life? Okay. Go from micro to macro, different areas of application. And I guarantee you that the more we're able to use the exact same principles in different circumstances, the stronger that we become in it. There's a consistency that we start to have, which then makes it easier for us to access. We don't have to worry about, I'm in this new environment. Oh, what is that? How can I remember? It becomes a way of being. See, if we just practice gratitude everywhere, we don't have to try to come up with extra gratitude muscles when it's the hard times. If we're nice and we're kind to everybody, then we don't have to worry about, well, how can I be nice in this situation? Because nice is just who I am. Nice is just how I show up. That's the place that we want to get to. In a moment that we're going to be going over some affirmative activations. These are part of our tools for living. These tools that we offer to help us learn how to put into practice these universal spiritual principles. These tools are meant to be repeated. They are statements that are paradigms, they are perceptions, they are practices, they are principles. They're all of that and so much more, but they're only as good as you use them. So as we go over it, this is just to expose you to it. And then I want to invite you to come back, and to repeat them often so that they can find a place of embodiment within you so we can actually become these things. Okay. So if you are at all able to, I want you to say these affirmative activations as they appear on your screen. Today, we're talking about nurturing one another. I am grateful for all the ways that I have been nurtured throughout life. Even when life's teachers were harsh, the lessons were priceless. I find ways, large and small, to pass on the nurturing that I receive. Seeing talents and potential, I give words of encouragement. I accept support as graciously as I extend it. Lifting each other up, we carry one another on our shoulders. I give thanks for the wombs of my birth and all of those before it. I am here by the strength and the wisdom of my ancestors. I too leave a legacy worth passing on. Let that sink in for a moment. I invite you to let yourself be gravitated, to be pulled into one or two of these. Is it, I accept support as graciously I extend it? Maybe it's, I too leave a legacy worth passing on. Maybe it's, I give thanks for the womb of my birth and all of those before it. I invite you, when you come back, to not only say all of these, but zero in on something, because within all of this, there'll be something in particular that's really calling you. We breathe that in. We take a breath. And before we get going in the topic, we are going to once again invite somebody in from the community and talk about this thing for a little bit, about what does this mean for us to nurture one another? What are some of the wonderful ways that we know this works? And what are some of those challenges that we have with this? And I am inviting in Kristen Brownstone. Kristen, come on in.
Hi.
Kristen is coming in from the Santa Cruz area, and I am so pleased to have you with us today. I was just sharing with the engineer that Kristen and I really got to know each other in the rainforest last year in the Amazon. And when you're out there with nobody and nothing, you really learn to appreciate, life and this whole idea of nurturing one another, and this being Mother's Day. Wow. There was nothing like being in the rainforest to really, really understand how we are from the earth. Whole other appreciation you get when you're there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm inviting you in, and I know that you do coaching work, as well, and know a lot about, mothering. So I'd like for you to just share with us a little bit some insights that you have about what this means for us to nurture one another, and what are those stumbling blocks, those things that we need to pay attention to, and I'll try to address some of those here.
Okay. Well, the affirmations that you shared, one that stood out for me was about accepting, nurturing graciously. And I think I know a lot of people in my life, and myself too. It's sometimes hard to ask for help. It's
Mhm.
hard to ask for nurturing because we want to, have it together. We don't want people to know that we have deficiencies. And, that what comes to mind for me, I mean, yes, I do this professionally, but even aside from that, it is such a gift to be asked for help.
Yes.
I am honored when I see someone take down the mask for a minute and
Mhm.
tell me that they need help.
Yes.
And it seems like there's different kinds of people, and you probably can address this. There's people who will never help you no matter what. They're
Right.
just focused on, number one. And then there's people who extend help all of the time, and sometimes not for the most altruistic ways. Sometimes it's just because it feels good, right?
Yes.
But they don't allow you to help them, so it
Right.
feels very one way.
Mhm.
um, and and then there's something in between where,
Yes.
if we could allow reciprocity in nurturance, my gosh, what could we do?
Amen. Yeah, I love it. Well, that's that. Let's explore that. Let's explore that. Thank you. Thank you for your insights and thank you for showing up. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Hmm. Yes, nurturing of one another. This is Mother's Day, and sometimes I remind us that it's not a Hallmark moment for everyone. But what I do know is that if you're here, you got nurtured. Somebody somewhere nurtured you. Okay. It might not have been pretty, but somewhere it happened. Regardless of the ways in which we were nurtured in our childhood, we always have the opportunity to put into motion the nurturing that we perceive as the highest and the best. We don't have to repeat what has happened to us before. We can actually set new patterns into motion. Conversely, that those wonderful things that have happened to us, I think it's incumbent upon us to pass it on. That we're not the end repository of it all, that the ways in which we have been blessed, the ways that we have been nurtured, we have to keep it going. We have to pass it on. If you're looking at this in real time, okay, it's Mother's Day. And I want to do shout out once again to all the mothers and all the people who are in fact, mothering. And I tell you, it's a miracle. The fact that we're even here is a miracle. If you stop and think about it, that just for the people who are alive today, that represents like 6 to 7 billion years worth of pregnancy collectively. It boggles the mind. We're here as part of an unbroken chain of life since the beginning of time. Somebody birthed us, to birth them, to birth them, to birth them, to birth them, to birth them. And we're here as the descendants of the survivors. For us to be here, our direct bloodline ancestors had to live long enough to be able to procreate. It's really astounding when you think about it. Like I said, it may not be the Hallmark moment, but we were all birthed. Just let that say, we were all birthed. And somebody birthed them, and somebody birthed them, and somebody birthed them. I contend that's worth a little appreciation. Sometimes I think we get a little twisted. When we have a birthday, we're celebrating the person that popped out the womb without any recognition or anything for the 9 months that the mother spent when we were in the womb. she was actually the one doing the birthing with no acknowledgement. And these comments that I'm making now, they're not just about the birthing process, but we have a tendency to take the ways in which we have been nurtured, to take them for granted. If you can read, like, thank a kindergarten teacher, thank a first grade teacher. Yes, your parents might have been teaching you things, perhaps you were homeschooled. But my point is that so often the things that are the most fundamental to our existence, the ways we got nurtured, are things that we're not even paying attention to. And not only do we not pay attention to it, then we don't value it. So preschool teachers, kindergarten teachers, elementary school teachers, they are amongst some of the lowest paid in all of academia. Yet they are the ones who have been taking up the mantle of doing the nurturance that's so primary for us as a society. I contend when it comes to nurturing that we always need to do reciprocity. Reciprocity. We get nurtured, and then you nurture what nurtured you. You take care of what takes care of you. When we were knee deep into the COVID pandemic, we were watching just the meltdown of our health system and our healthcare system, I should say, the hospitals being overwhelmed, the medical staff and whatnot just being completely overwhelmed, not receiving the kind of personal protective equipment that they needed, and not having the supplies and whatnot that they needed, and being overburdened and overworked. Okay. They were keeping us alive as a society. The ones who were the quote unquote first responders. And a lot of times, the ones who are on that front line, the first responders, they're some of the ones that we appreciate the least. We have to flip that. As a society, we have to nurture the ones that are nurturing us. We have to do the same thing in our own personal lives. Be conscious about it. Be deliberate about it. We're all impacting one another. The smallest amount of encouragement, the smallest amount of acknowledgement really goes a long way. When people feel appreciated, and not just taken for granted. I want to invite you to just think about that for a moment. And literally, as a practice over this next week, to reflect upon what are some of those areas, what are some of those people, who are some of those people, places, maybe it's an institution, where you have felt nurtured, and ask yourself, how can you nurture it? Reciprocity, how can you give something back? The giving it back, yes, it can be direct, like you give back directly to whatever it is that nurtured you, but you may not always have that opportunity. So my mother passed away a couple of years ago, and yet it is her legacy of the nurturing that I try to keep going, not only just in how I show up in my own life, but when I think about the ways that she nurtured, not just nurtured me, but she was a professional nurturer. That's what she did. It was her passion, it was her calling. Uh, She taught 41 years at the exact same school, her whole entire career. It was a school in East Los Angeles, girls' school, combination 7th, 12th grade. She actually team taught there the last 20 years of her career with her sister, a year younger. They'd ride to school together. They honestly, they were like twins. Um, and they both were remedial math teachers. So they have kids that are, 13, 14, 15 years old that can't add. They can't read. This is the end of the line where literally, I think they call them opportunity schools now, but they were referred to as delinquent schools. And what it would take to get through the barriers, the defense mechanisms, the sense of lack of self-esteem, not to mention the gangs or the violence or the poverty or the drugs or like all of the other things that were the containers, the environmental containers in which these girls were growing up in. But I learned, not just with how she was working with me, but watching how she showed up. Her career, I mean, she just loved it. She was always doing things like vacation Bible school or teaching Sunday school or Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and just this kind of nurturing. How do you bring people up? And I really learned from her this: leave no one behind, that everybody has value, that everybody has worth, that anybody can be successful, anybody can make it if you invest in them a little bit. And the investment isn't just money, your time, your effort, your attention, your energy. How everybody and everything was redeemable. No throwaway people. Whether you want to call it a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance, where you don't give up. There's a blessing that we do at Inner Light. When new babies are coming into the community and we all get together and there's a ceremony that we do. I read from the passage in the Prophet on Children from Khalil Gibran. There's a pledge that the parents and the families say to the child, to the baby, and then we bring all the kids up on the pulpit to receive a blessing from the entire congregation, and we'd all stand and outreach our hands, and there's a blessing that we would give to all of them, where we would repeat this thing for 3 times in a row. We would say, yes, you can. We believe in you, and we are never, ever giving up on you. Yes, you can. We believe in you, and we are never, ever giving up on you. Yes, you can. We believe in you, and we are never, ever giving up on you. Just let that sink in for a moment. The power and the resonance of that. There'd barely be a dry eye in the house where, even in our saying it to the children, it coming out of us and we're blessing each other with it. I contend we're all children. We're all sons and daughters of the Most High. We all need the nurturance. We all need this caring. Can this be a place where you can stand, where regardless of the people, regardless of the circumstance and the conditions, it can be a yes, you can. We believe in you, and we're never, ever giving up on you. Take a breath. There's too many of us in our society where we're starting to give up on one another. This is a problem. Once you give up on each other, you start to do the othering. The polarization comes in. The divisiveness comes in. The lack of empathy, the lack of caring, the lack of support. The degree to which this is intensifying is tearing the very fabric of our democracy. A democracy is not an institution. A democracy is a relationship. Let that sink in for a moment. A democracy is a collective relationship. Just like if you have a marriage, it's not the institution, it's the relationship. It's where the people agree that there's a certain way that they're going to be with each other. Okay. And that's what creates the marriage, not a piece of paper, but how they show up with each other. The only way that we can survive a democracy and keep a democracy is if we believe in each other. If we believe in each other, if we believe in each other to abide by certain rules and standards that create boundaries of action and activity, kind of like being in a game where you have certain rules and they get respected, like the courts are kind of like the referees, and you may not always get the right call or whatever, but it allows the game to keep going on. Okay? And for future generations, because we're all in it together as some kind of agreement. Take a breath. We have to nurture our collective relationship with one another. We have to nurture it. We have to nurture our democracy. We have to nurture our neighbors, our political systems, our educational systems, our health systems, our economy. We have to nurture it. I know that may seem odd when we're busy fighting it and trying to hedge loss and trying to win and to be victorious. Hurt people hurt people. So many people are scared And if we get in there with the fear with them, that's just more fear. At some point, we have to elevate and get out of the spiritual amnesia. We forget who we are. So focused on the different things that each one of us has done. Think about nurturing. Okay? The earth needs our nurturing. We think of it sometimes as like saving the planet or trying to protect the planet, but what if you flipped it in your mind and you thought of it as nurturing? See, nurturing is proactive. And nurturing, we are looking for ways that we can spark the growth, where we can inspire, where we can uplift. There are some of us who really are committed to this nurturing that I'm talking about, but it's a one-way street. We're not embracing it as much as we're willing to give it. On this Mother's Day, this is a particular trap that mothers find themselves in. When you become a mother, particularly when your child is younger, there's a lot of dependence that the child has on you. And they're young and they're small. So they're not going to give back to you in the same way that you give to them. But nurturing isn't just a quid pro quo. It's not just okay, I give 2 ounces of support over here, and I've got to get 2 ounces of support back from that same place. I'm asking all of us, and particularly if you are someone who does a lot of nurturing, do you let yourself be nurtured? Do people have to fight you to nurture you? Are there ways that you push aside the support? Perhaps you really want it, but you're too afraid to ask for it. You don't know how to do that. Okay. It's okay. It's not a sign of weakness to be nurtured or to need nurturance. We push male identity in that kind of category, where it's somehow a sign of weakness to have your emotions or your mental state front and center or somehow cared for. I contend we need each other. I contend that we're better off when there's reciprocity, when we're all giving and we're all receiving. Just like the trap of the nurturance, the trap of being the provider is the same thing. When we're always the one who's doing the providing and we're never stopping for a moment and allowing ourselves to be supported by somebody else or something else? Can we be part of the divine flow here, the divine circulation, where it's not just going one way or another way? And I want to say this specifically now. There's so much going on in the public arena now regarding what we call, quote unquote, reproductive choice. It really heated up, as you well know, when the Supreme Court overturned the long-standing verdict in Roe versus Wade that established abortion as an option that would be available to all women across the United States. That federal ruling trumped all of the whatever it was that was on the state books. Well, as you know, with that overturning, now it's gone back to the states, enacting new laws or reenacting the laws that were still on the books. With any way you look at it, that there's some fundamental things here that I think need to be uplifted. I agree wholeheartedly that a woman should have choice over her body and what happens to it or not. I understand all the arguments that people are making about the restrictions and why we should have the restrictions and all of the rest of that. But I feel like what's fundamentally missing in the public discourse is the fact that in addition to this being about like a woman's individual choice, we have a debt as society. Okay, listen to what I'm saying. That women are the ones that keep the entire human race going. I'm not saying that males don't have any part in it, but it's through a woman's body that human beings are made. This is a phenomenal service to humankind. It's hard, it's difficult, it's challenging. Women are not baby making machines. These new laws are kind of presupposing that once there's conception, that just automatically, you're going to get some baby out the other end. No. At least 20 to 25% of inceptions wind up along the way as not viable, miscarriages, or something that's threatening the health and the well-being of the mother. I don't hear any conversation about nurturing the childbearer. There's conversations about, well, at what point is her life threatened enough to justify getting certain medical treatments? What right she has to determine whether or not to have a child, and like all these different things. But what I don't hear anywhere is us as a society saying we have to nurture. It is upon us to make certain that people who embark upon this phenomenal journey to make sure that the species is on the planet that they have what they need to be able to do that. Duh. Instead of just making it harder and more challenging and putting burden on her as an individual person, like this is just something that's going on in her and her body. This is us. This is us as a species. And I want to invite you into that discussion. I want to invite you into this idea of the nurturing. Happy Mother's Day. Ooh, okay, it's good. Send the flowers and go out to dinner and all that's fine. Do that, show some gratitude. But for the whole genetic institution of birthing, we need to give it some respect. We need to nurture it, as well as just express gratitude once a year. We have to do better than that. We really, really do. Where our attention is not just on laws and restrictions and it no. But what do we do to uplift? How do we nurture? Just as I was saying earlier, how do we nurture the caregivers? How do we nurture the first responders? How do we nurture the early childhood educators? All of the people literally upon whose shoulders we're standing. We can do it. We can do it. We just have to want to. That's all. We have to make it a priority. Let's do that. Let's take it to prayer. Yes, on this Mother's Day, we say thank you. Thank you to mothers all over the world, now and throughout all eternity. How you've blessed us with the gift of life. That all that you have done and all that you have sacrificed, and those of you who've died even in the process. We give thanks. We sing your praises. And in this moment right now, we ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness for all the misogyny, the sexism, the being treated as chattel, the abuses, the molestations, all that stuff that we know that women have undergone and continue to go through. In this moment right now, we ask forgiveness. We ask forgiveness and we pledge to do better. We pledge in this moment to do better. Something within us is calling us to that Yes, you can. We believe in you and we're never giving up on you. This is the message that the universe has to us. And this is the message we have back to each other. Something within us is saying, I love you through the hard times. I'll see you when you can't even see yourself. I'll lift you up. You lift me up. And together we stand. And I say thank you. I say thank you to the universe for the way that you nurture us. With all needs met, showing up is exactly what we need. Health in the body temple, wellness, prosperity, abundance, resolving the conflicts and the issues that we're carrying on with each other, allowing the hardened husks of our heart to slough off. We say thank you for all the opportunities, the creativity, the inventions, the collaborations, the new territories that continuously are being discovered. Oh, how great thou art, Mother, Father, God. And it is with the state of humble humility that I release this word, knowing it does not return to be void, it is already fulfilled. It's good, it's done. We get out of the way, we allow it to be. And so it is. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, we're a praying community. You'll see information scrolling across your screen now about how to reach out to us for prayer. You can give us a call at 831-465-9090. You can send an email, the number 4 in the word prayer, at innerlightministries.com, and one of our prayer practitioners will get back to you. Confidential, nothing canned. Don't try to go it alone with a heavy heart. And let us stand with you in agreement for something wonderful that may be birthing in your life. We got you. Got you back in prayer. I want to invite you to be with us in community. Check out our calendar, see the different things that are going on. Some are virtual, some are in person, some are combinations of the two. Be sure to check out the food bank. We are partnered now with our food bank on the facility of Santa Cruz Bible Church on Frederick Street. We're there every Thursday at noon. Push out thousands of pounds of foods, farmers market style. So you can choose your own fresh fruits and produce, packaged goods. It's all free. It's all free. We're fortunate enough to live in a bread basket where we are nurtured by the earth. And we don't want anything to go to waste. Nothing. So the excess stuff, we're helping to push that out so then that can continue to nurture people. Even if you get it and give it to somebody else, we want to keep this nurturance going. That's what we want. That's what we want to do. And speaking of nurturance, as we start to go into our time of conscious giving now, I'm going to ask you to put in a little extra something in there and make a notation for that. It's camp time again for summer camp. We always make sure that all of our teens are able to go. We team up with Centers for Spiritual Living, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience for the youth. They always say that this just is the best thing. Literally, they say it's like one of the best things in their lives ever. And so many of the ones that have gone through, even as adults, they still stay together and become part of the adult ministries or keep those friendships going. So we appreciate any extra offerings towards that. You'll see on your screen that there are some ways in which you can make a contribution. There's a QR code there that will take you to a portal where you can use PayPal, you can use any debit or credit card. There's a recurring option. I encourage you to do that. And once again, in the notations, if you are putting in something extra for the teen camp, please note that, and we'll make sure that that gets to the teen ministry. If you're online, there's a donate button there. Perhaps you want to use Cash App. There are so many ways in which you are able to make that contribution, and know that all of it is going towards healing, growth, transformation. And I want you to remember that your generosity always returns back to you. So it's been wonderful spending some time here with you. Come back, look at this again, pass it on, subscribe, like us, make sure you come back to the affirmations. You want to keep repeating those over and over and over again. As we like to say always, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, take this consciousness and multiply it. Peace and blessings to you. See you next time.